Hola, it's Dave from cheapwinefinder.com with another wine. These are all companion podcasts for something we wrote up on the cheapwinefinder.com website, which this summer, I think, will be our 12th anniversary. And we have like a couple thousand wine reviews on there, almost all value-priced wines, wines that you can find in stores. We try not to find something that's in 12 stores in the United States. There's no way you can find it. That doesn't do anybody any good, even though those wines are good. Talking about them, those are wines you keep to yourself. But we try to find wines that everybody can find and everybody can enjoy. And sometimes they're overlooked by the big wine media. Like they're always talking about, the newest wines or the most expensive wines, and sometimes wines that have been around a while that there's a reason why they've been around a while. People like them, and they kind of get ignored, but we don't ignore them. And the one we had today is actually the first wine that ever caught my attention that was a good wine. This is the start of my wine journey, and it's the Ravenswood Vintners Blend Zinfandel 2017, and this is back in the 90s. I think it was a 94 or 95 vintage. I'm not sure which one. And I was at a restaurant which was called Zinfandel's. It was an Americana restaurant. They would, they would have different sections of America and specialize in that, like Hawaiian barbecue, where they would, put a pig in sand and roast it. And I think they had burgoo, which is a stew from Kentucky. And I remember it said no squirrel. So we didn't get squirrel in our burgoo. But the house wine was the Ravenswood Vintners Blend. And, normally up at that point, I probably wouldn't have gotten a house wine with a wine. I didn't really think about wine. I'd drink and go to the bars and go to clubs and have a good time, but never thought about that. But it was the house blend and house wine, and the server, pushed it on there, and it, everybody at the table blew our minds. It was the best wine I ever had, the first one, but it was the best one. And it was great. And one of the things that was, kind of gave you confidence, because sometimes I know people, and myself included, when we first start out, you go, do I like a bad wine or do I like a good wine? This thing only cost 10 or 12 bucks when it came out that back then. Is like, am I liking crap wine? Because, you read the wine media and what have you. If it's not expensive, you're probably not buying good wine, which is marketing. It's not reality. But if you don't know what you're doing, marketing is your reality sometimes. And actually, it's like the first wine after I went there. I went out and bought a couple of bottles at a wine shop, and when I drank those, I went and got more, and that wine kind of went viral. I forget if it was 94, 95, but it went the wine version of viral, and it pretty much started to sell out really quickly. And Ravenswood went from being just a sleepy little wine company to like selling 1 million bottles before too long. I mean, they really were on their game back then. And I'll explain Ravenswood, where it is now and where it was then too. But anyway, I went to a wine shop when it was, after a while, after a month or two afterwards, and there wasn't much left, and they had like 1 or 2 cases left, and the price wasn't 10 or 12 bucks anymore, it's $25. And that actually was good, because I went, oh, okay, I liked a good wine. I just didn't like, a wine that was sweet and fruity. And this was actually a wine that sold out, and there's a market for it, and people who knew wine went out and got it. And so it was like, okay, I actually picked a good wine. So that was kind of validation. And I'm going to take this one. And then I tried the 2017. This is, 24 years down the road. And is it still good? It's still, it didn't wow me like the mid-90s wine did. But it's still good, and it's still the way I like it. I'm going to take a sip. Yeah, it still has good flavor, still has balance, still has all sorts of spice, but it doesn't go over the top. And it's still got that little rustic edge. It's still got some rough, sharp edges, which I want in a Zinfandel. I don't, the smooth classic wines can be Cabernet Merlot or something. You can do those wines and make them as classic and classy as possible. I want my Zin to have a little rough edge. It'll be a little bit of a farmer's wine. I don't want it to be uppity. I want it to be kind of the wine of the people. It doesn't have to have, 24 months of oak aging and keep it, like a reserve or something. Nah, just give me the regular stuff. That's what it's good for. And then here's the history of this wine, which is one of the reasons why I picked it. Joel Peterson started the Ravenswood Wine Company in the 70s. And when it took off, like he was making 1 million bottles a year at one point, it's hard for an independent winemaker to ramp up like that. You need money, you need facilities, and he ended up he went public, and then he sold off the brand to Constellation brands, a huge beverage wines that most of their portfolio very well. You probably drank 20 to 30 of their wines in the last year and didn't even know it. And they bought him out, and he still had a say with the company. I don't know if he was the winemaker, but he was still there. He had an office at the winery. I mean, he was still doing it. So Joel Peterson still was doing Ravenswood. It was not owned by him anymore. It was owned by a big, huge corporation, but yeah, they're still making wine. And actually he's got his own brand. Since when he sold it for like $100,000 or something, which is like the winemaker's way of hitting the lottery. You don't have to worry too much about your retirement account when you do that. I mean, his son is making Bedrock wines, and he's making, was it Up and Coming? Something like, he's doing just single vineyard wines, small production, which is you can do when you sell off your very good hot brand to somebody. You can make the wines you want to make and just break even or make a little bit of money because you got money in the bank. So it's a good thing. But last year, Constellation brands kind of changed their marketing strategy and sold off 30 different brands, labels to E and J Gallo, and Gallo bought the Ravenswood name. They didn't buy the winery. They didn't buy. They had a really famous tasting room. It was one of the best tasting rooms on the Sonoma, the Sonoma Wine Trail. They didn't buy that. They just bought the brand name. They can just do Ravenswood. And since they didn't buy the company other than the brand, they didn't need Joel Peterson anymore. So if Ravenswood comes out again, it's not going to be exactly the same because the original guy is gone. The original winery is gone. It's not the same. But, you never know what's going to happen. Gallo does make good wines. I'm not complaining about Gallo at all. But this is a wine that started off for me, and now this is maybe its end. And I'm still going, but it's all gone. So I'm going to take another sip and maybe pour one out for the Ravenswood brand. I don't know. Yeah, so that might be it. But this is the wine that got me going. You never know. It's still good. I remember the other one was being fantastically good, but I didn't know nothing back then. But it seems to be I was right, and I liked it. And so, adios, Ravenswood. More power to Joel Peterson. I know he's just making those boutique wines. He's a really good winemaker, and I got to check out his son's Bedrock. Hopefully that one's good too. And I haven't checked it out yet. I want to, and that's great. So this is a little shout out to my wine past and to one of my old time used to be wines. And that's it. I'll be talking to you in a couple of days. I got a Washington State wine that's going to be kind of interesting. It's kind of a take on Tuscan wine. So that should be a fun thing too. So adios for now, and I'll talk to you all in a little bit, and try Ravenswood before it's all gone. So maybe it might come back, but for the moment, I don't know. So bye-bye.